Welcome back to the Purpose of Our Profit podcast. This week we had Calum on from the Bay Fish and Chips. Calum is an award-winning chef and he's a fantastic guy who spoke around when he was at school. He had dyslexia and he never really knew what he wanted to be apart from probably being in the Royal Navy. He also wanted to be a chef, but he didn't know which one to do first. So he followed his aspirations and his passion. He went into the Royal Navy and served there for many years, served in the Gulf War and everything that you mentioned. And then he came out of there to work as a chef and in a fish and chip shop with one of his partners at the time. He had a bit of an experience with a relationship with one of his business partners. He moved into a different operations, a different fish shop, and then he left there and actually started his own one, and that's the Bay Fish and Chips. But his aspiration is just to be a chef or work in a fish shop all of his life. He's got an aspiration to do more. He's actually even serving his award-winning fish into the warships just now. He's training the chefs in the warships in the Royal Navy. He's entering multiple awards, winning awards left, right and centre. And now he's actually travelling the world to places like Japan, becoming a judge on all the awards that he's won as well. So he's a great guest, a great attitude, great positivity. He talks about hard work, dedication, learning from mistakes, and all-round good guy. So worth a good listen. Welcome back, everyone, to the Purpose of Our Profit podcast. This week I'm delighted to have Calum from the Bay Fish and Chips. Calum was put in touch with us through our mutual contact, Eloise, Linguistis. If you haven't checked out that podcast episode, then please do. But Calum, thank you for joining us today. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Yourself?
Yeah, very well. And as always, get Darren. How you doing, Darren?
Yeah, I'm good. Looking forward to this one. It's one that I feel like we've had in the pipeline for a while because we spoke to Eloise that long ago. But yeah, it's good to finally have you on, Calum.
Cheers.
And for those, Calum, who don't know you, would you like to give them our listeners a very brief introduction to who you are and what you do?
Yeah, I'm Calum Richardson, so I'm chef director of the Bay Fish and Chips in Stonehaven, Aberdeenshire. Been there for 15 years, 16 years, 15. Background for me was Royal Navy for 10 years, left school, dyslexic, need to be hands-on kind of guy, and kind of journey has just progressed to where I am now.
Wow, I like how you just summed it up in like 10 seconds. That was fantastic.
Is that us finished now?
Thanks very much, Calum.
Right, cheers.
That was great. And honestly, like, as I was doing my research, I've kind of found that you always wanted to be in the Royal Navy, but you always wanted to be a chef as well. And that intrigued me as well. So it's interesting to know that at school, we spoke to so many people in business recently who said they weren't academically trained enough for school, but they had other skill sets out of that, but they weren't just supported in a network. So how did it feel at school? Was that something you felt?
School was difficult for me. Dyslexic. And back then, wasn't widely known. My mum had taken me to London to get tested because the schools weren't having any of it. And it was quite good because it gave you a peace of mind that you weren't just thick as mince. But the hard thing with being dyslexic is you generally got a high IQ. So the ability is there to do it, you just can't do it. You know, so like I was in all the good classes, physics, chemistry, all them kind of things, and I could do it. I just couldn't put pen to paper, which is real frustrating. But I felt that I had to do them subjects because I had the ability to do it. But it was really a mistake because my birthday's January, so I had to stay till 5th year Christmas. So I knew I was going to the Navy. I'd already been accepted before I was 16. So I picked all the subjects I wanted to pick in 5th year. Best year I had. Well, best 6 months I had because I picked like woodwork, home economics. You know, I was doing all the things that I actually enjoyed doing, but I wasn't going to pick that as main subject. But thinking back, I should have done it for my 3rd and 4th year, and I've come away from school with something. But I'd gone to the Navy. And the funny thing with them was I said I wanted to be two things I wanted to be was a chef and I wanted to join the Navy. So I went to the careers office, sat the exam, and they said, "Oh, you're better off suited to an engineer." This will be where my chemistry and physics and everything came in my maths, because I was good at that kind of things. So for me, it was ideal. 15, I just can't wait till I'm 16 and get out of here. It's all I wanted to do. But the one thing they said was, no one's going to help you. You ain't going to get a scribe for your exams. You ain't going to have someone holding your hand. Which It was the best thing, really. I think the Navy was the best thing I've ever done because it made me who I am now. Not the way I am now, but it got me to where I am. So, like, I remember when I joined my first ship, and as an engineer, you get this kind of book that goes in your overalls pocket, and it shows you all the valves and all the systems for the water, the gas, and everything. And I remember opening it, and it was like, what the hell is this? You know, I ain't going to learn this. Every page was just like nonsense. So I went and put my hand on the pipe, and I followed it. Ah, that's a valve. All right, okay. Ah, that's a strainer. So I actually had followed every pipe on the ship. So when I got asked to do something, I knew what everything was. So I was in a better position. So I realised you can't do it. You've just got to teach yourself a little different way. So that would have been first step of change for me. Next part I would say that helped me in business would be working for loads of different bosses. You soon saw who got the respect and the work out of people. If you'd finished work during the day and you were going down a mess, a cup of tea or a beer or something, and the boss said, "Where are you going?" "No, go back and clean this." They're just looking for things for you to do. And you got other bosses, "Yeah, no problems, off you go." But when you got woken in the middle of the night and the engine had broken down, you knew who you were jumping out of your bed for, you know, and you soon realised what pattern, you know. In the Navy was great, it was all great fun, but when things had to be done, they had to be done. And that's kind of ethos I took into business. But there's a negative there because when I came into business, you know, my staff used to call me the Führer. And I was so regimental, it was unbelievable. And like, if you didn't come in shaving, I'd send you away to get shaven. You know, and I've got a beard now, for goodness sake. But someone said to me, if you calm it down by half, you're still going to be a nightmare. And it was true. You know, these people hadn't signed up to be in the military, you know, and that was a hard transition for me. But I knew if I kind of implemented the things that I'd learned, so like cleanliness, planning and all these things. So when I entered competitions, judges were coming around to the shop and they were like, Jesus Christ, because everything was in its place. If it wasn't meant to be there, it was gone, you know. And that's kind of how I rolled it. And I believe in organic growth. So things happen for a reason. I've looked at products. So like Vegware is a prime example actually of this. When I moved into the bay, when I built it, I was looking for new packaging. And it was about year 2 of the bay. And I'd been showing Vegware. And Vegware was a new startup company from Edinburgh at the time. And I looked at the packaging. I thought, that's pretty cool. But it was really expensive. And I thought, customers not going to understand this. You know, I don't understand it and I'm looking for it. I thought, how are they going to understand this? Nah, I can't justify putting the price up of the product because I'm using a sustainable packaging. People ain't going to buy into that. So I left it and I ended up going back to them. It must be 3 years later. And I picked up on it and it was still earlier than everyone else, but it was the right time. If I'd done it before, it would have been lost and gone and forgotten about. But, you know, that's what I mean by organic growth. If I'd forced that issue, it would have probably fallen flat and I'd have probably never gone back to it, you know.
I want to just pick up on something that you mentioned there, like in terms of like the managing your standards, I guess, that you've been instilled in you through the Navy and then transitioning into business and going like, yeah, listen, half that level is still going to be a lot better than anyone else. Was that a good thing that you brought some things down? Like, is there an example of something, I guess, like I'm assuming not the cleanliness when you were going for awards, but is there an example of something that was a good thing in terms of lowering your standards on so that, I guess, other people you were working with, the staff, would be able to adjust better to that way of working?
I think discipline.
Okay.
So timekeeping, like people know not to be late for me, but you know, in the Navy you're taught 5 minutes early for everything. So I expected folk to be 5 minutes early. Well, that's just not going to happen in any real life. You know, that's me backing forces. So I had to realise, look, as long as they are here on time and ready to go, and the other thing was like clean outfits, ironed, and you know, that still annoys me if someone comes in and they haven't got their outfit ironed or anything like that. But it was more discipline, silly things like holidays, taking time off. You didn't get any of that in the Navy. You got told when you were having your holidays. You got told what was happening. So it was just about, people, when they go home, they're going home. They don't work for you 24/7. That's not how it works. You're not going to the mess deck, but someone's going to knock on the door and get you up out of your bunk in the middle of the night. That ain't happening, So it was more like definitely discipline and disciplining people. That's what I had to tone down, and probably it went with that would have been. I'd have probably been more high strung, so I'd have probably gone off the handle because I was from a shouty environment. It's not like I would have gone ape, but I don't even really raise my voice at a shop now because actually you can do more with a stare at someone than you can by opening your mouth. And the thing is, you can't shout at folk anymore. So if I was the way I was when I came out of the Navy, I'd probably have a short career now. It's pretty much the same as the chefs on television now. Look at how it's changed now.
Yeah.
Of like the shouty Gordon Ramsay and your kind of more mellow chefs that are on the go now. And these guys are getting more done probably and more respect out of them. Because the main thing you want to keep is staff retention. That's the crucial thing. If you can keep people. I had my manager who left last year. He'd been with me 20 years. And my manager now, he's been with me 10 years this year. That's the key thing. You want to keep the staff retention. So you've got to play fair. Because if you're changing your key staff every year or every 2 years, all right, it's a nice freshen up for the business, but it's a lot of work. And it's cost you a lot of money to train people up and double up. And, it's easier. You're better to invest your time early on.
I think that's a great answer. I think we've went so far down the line, it's unbelievable. Because I've got notes here to ask you stuff about. You're obviously a very creative person, visually led, if you like. You talked about woodworking in school and the craft stuff as well. Even the fact you went on the ship and you've kind of followed all the pipework. I mean, were people giving you funny looks back then and thinking, what's he doing? Because I guess most people look at a manual and try to learn that, but you're walking along the ship, checking every pipe, understanding where everything is, so that when it comes to the crunch time, if there's an alarm or whatever else, you know exactly what it is. That must have been quite different back then anyway.
Yeah, I suppose so, because the one thing though in the Navy, you learn to get thick skin pretty quick because folk will rip into you regardless. So that's kind of the way.
Me and Chris are nodding like we know. We don't know, but
no idea.
But it's like I am the biggest piss taker going, but I've always said you've got to be able to take it if you dish it out. Even if you don't like it when you're getting it back, you've got to pretend you like it because then they give up. And that's kind of what I do. So I like to have fun with the staff and take the mickey out of them, but they know to get the head down. But like so going around with the hand on the pipes, I dare say back then folk were laughing and saying stuff, but there was that much grief you got back then. You got wound up for just being anything, so it didn't really matter,
It wasn't going to add anything on top. It sounds like it was like
no, but I got stickers, Scottish Power stickers, and I was putting them on all the electric panels and all the generators, and folk are going, Zone H was Liverpool. Why are you putting that on there? I'm Scottish. I'm an engineer. That's Scottish Power, and it was just winding up all the English, winding up all the English people. But that's just what it's like. So, did you get a funny look? I probably did, but the environment you were in was a real harsh environment, really. But then on the other hand, it wasn't. It was a flip of the coin. Folk were there to help you. Like best friends I've ever had in my life. My friend's got cancer just now and lives in Bangkok, and I'm there saying, "Do you need any money? Do you need a hand?" Because it's like brotherhood. You really are best friends for life. You haven't spoke to someone for 20 years, and then they turn around and say, "How's your sister Karen? How's your mum and dad?" And you're like, you forget when you've lived with someone for so many years, 24/7. You've been to the Gulf War, and all. You soon, know everything about each other. My friends at home know nothing about me really. They only know what they see. It's totally different. That was a big thing you miss when you come out of the forces. It probably made it easy to focus on the shop and crack on and get direction and get where I wanted to be, because the belief, and you just have to get going.
What made you? Because obviously you said you wanted to be in the Navy, so that box was ticked. You obviously said you were in the Gulf War, traveling about, loving life, and all this kind of stuff. What then made you make the decision that you wanted to leave and start your own shop and become a chef and fulfill that other part of your dream?
This is a good one. This. I always said it wasn't a married man's life. I'm on wife 3, so I maybe should have stayed in the Navy, to be exactly honest.
I shouldn't laugh. Darren's on wife 2, so he's not bad behind you.
Oh dear. So
that's enough though.
But it was true. I said not a married man's life, and it wasn't, because you've seen the married guys on board, and they can't go out and they can't go partying every time you hit a jetty. They've got to send money home. They've got things to deal with at home, and you could see them stressing out all the time. And I just thought, and folks said to me, "Oh, you could come out and go offshore." But for me, if I was going to go offshore on oil rigs, I might as well have stayed in the Navy, because I was already carving a career there. But there was a few things it happened. One, I was getting married. 2, and back then you had to put a year and a half's notice in, 18 months notice to leave the Navy. And you could take it out on the last day, you could still take it out, but you've got to kind of know what you're doing. So the wife I was getting married to, her family had a fish and chip shop, and they'd offered me to come out. And that wasn't really going to be my direction. It was just, I'm going to do that and find my feet and decide what I'm going to do. But it ended up the direction I was taking. But then we parted our ways. So I bought my first shop on my own. Well, not on my own, I had a business partner. This was the biggest learning curve in business. And it was probably the hardest years of my business life. I went to buy this bankrupt shop. It was actually the shop that started the deep fried Mars bar. It was called the Haven back then. Probably why it was bankrupt and shut, because it was selling that crap. So I went to buy that with my business partner. But when we got it, I had a flat and everything above it. But when we got it surveyed, the place was a shithole. There was still food in the fridge, and it had been shut for a year. That's kind of what state it was in. It was minging. So they came around to survey it, and the bank said, "Well, we'd lend you the money, but nah, not really." So I went to the owners of it and said, "Look, I really want it. Can I clean the place?" So I got a skip and I chucked everything out, all the fridges, everything. Kept stuff that was going to be of any use, like a stainless table here and there. I got rid of it, scrubbed the place, and I got the valuation in the bank round again, and that was it. Got the money and off we went. It was all really old-fashioned, wooden surfaces, old-fashioned frying range. It had no life left in it, but I knew that I could get some money back on it, and if this was going to work, then we could start investing. So that's what we've done there, and that's where the competitions came in. I knew the going out and winning competitions would be a great way of, one, generating turnover and people coming in and interest, but also it would open up avenues of equipment as well. So I went out to try and win Young Fish Fryer of the Year. I tried to do it in my previous business that I was working. I didn't get anywhere. So it was under 30 they had for the cut-off time. And I was on my last attempt. So it was only my second attempt. And I was going to fill this in on my way home from my holidays, but my nana had died when I came back. So I binned it off, but I knew it had to be in. So my partner says, "You better do it." But this is again that doing it without reading it and overthinking. I actually just done it while I was working, reading the question, filling in the answer, reading the question. And I was frying at the time while I was doing it. Whereas if I'd actually sat down for a few days, I'd have probably overthought it, and really mucked it up. But that I ended up going on and winning that. But one of the things I'd done, I thought, how am I going to stand out from all these other guys? And I seen something in the local paper, and it was Shell Livewire, and it was Business Growth Challenge, it was called. And it was run by Shell, and I think it was RBS at the time. And it was over on the west coast of Scotland. I turned up not knowing what it was. I just thought, I'll go for that. Filled in. I thought, if I've been on this course, then when I go to the final and say, oh, I've done this course, no one else will have done this because no one else knew about it. But it was a competition, and I turned up and I won it. But when I got there, it was run by three old majors from the army. And when we arrived, no one knew anyone. And there was all this kind of old camping army gear and all this kind of stuff they would use out in deserts and stuff. And they said, right, there's things here on the floor, make them. And I was like, all right, done. And they're like, are you from the forces? but it was funny because it was all challenges, get from A to B, you know, with strings and rope. And I mean, that's inbred in you when you're in the forces. So, but I was just using humour to get folk from A to B and come on and just having banter. And next thing announced I won it, and I was like, "Oh, I did." You know, for me, I wasn't going there as a competition, but they made you sit there, and I can't remember for the life of me the name of this test. They said, "We're going to give you a test. It's world famous. You answer the question. It's multiple choice. It'll say, when you see a problem, do you A, B, C, or D? Answer what you do. Don't read it again. Just douche, douche, douche." So I'd done it. And then they analysed it and they tell you what kind of person you are, a manager you are. And I tell you, it was actually more beneficial for me. They said I was regimental. They said that, you know, I was strong willpowered. I was good in business. But they said my downfall would be I'd chain myself to whatever I'm doing, which was true. You know, I was 24/7. I've said that already. And they said the only way you're going to succeed is if you step back. You'll not win Fish and Chip Shop of the Year or get the goals if you can't step away from the range. And it's so true, because when I did win, I couldn't have gone to Japan or any of these places with work if I couldn't leave that shop, you know. So that was a big part. And the other thing that made me realise as well is if I step away, I know it might not be as good. So the shop will be clean at the end of the night, but it may be not Captain's Rounds clean. But in all honesty, does it need to be to that level? And that was the things of switching off. So that was kind of the growth of like getting competitions, going on and winning, and it increased, which made me be able to reinvest back in the business. But the business, as it grew and I got better, my business partner was older, so he was at the end of his career. He was a silent partner, but he was the most vocal silent partner in the world. So when I got invited to House of Parliament, and it says Calum and partner, and he didn't understand that actually meant a female partner and not a business partner. You know, it was getting down that route. But then, you know, there was a bit of power struggle going on, and it was a real eye opener. Things were going on in business that I didn't like, and it was affecting me personally and in business. So I called it a day. I said, let's finish it. But it took me 2 years to get rid of that person. But hardest 2 years, but probably the most beneficial 2 years if I look back. You know, folk going on about making mistakes. That's not a mistake. It's just a learning curve. You know, at the end of the day, if that happened to me now, it would be really expensive. You know, but back then it was expensive at that point. But really, it made me open my eyes. I stopped trusting everybody. I stopped jumping at every opportunity and trusting everyone. And I started analysing things a little bit more and saying, really, like, I don't do things for me. I do a lot of stuff for other people, but then I might evaluate who's getting the benefit out of this. You know, is it the person that's asking me, or is it the end user? You know, and I look at things different. And so as much as it was the worst time, probably been the best flip of the coin for me.
And there's something in that as well. It's like whether you can get that learning without the pain, without like, can you figure that stuff out without, you know, if someone told you this is what you need to do, might you just kind of carried on, or did you need to have gone through a bit of that and figure that out for yourself and experience that 2 years?
Well, it's quite funny because there was solicitors involved in it. And I remember I was like, I'm ready just to throw the towel in. And he's like, no, you can't do that, because that's what this person's trying to get you to do. He's trying to get you to walk away. And he's going, no. And I paid good money for this solicitor, and it was probably another good thing I'd done. you pay for what you get. And he would say, right, take this dictaphone, because I wasn't, the company solicitor got changed to my business partner's company solicitor. So it made it pretty hard for me, and they wouldn't allow my solicitor in. So he told me to take a dictaphone and put it on the table and record all the messages. And, he said, it's just going to rattle cages, but these are the and it was good because it made me stand up for myself, and I was on my own standing up, but I knew I had the backing. What I was doing was legally right. And you do have to make these errors or mistakes or these slips and trips. They've got to happen. I think it's an unreal world to believe that you can get from A to B without them. I think if you do get to A to B without them, you'll get it at B. And if you get it at B, it's going to be costly. It could be the end of it. It could topple you over the edge because you probably aren't thick-skinned enough to take it. You'd probably be too thin to take it. I think as you get hit in life, you grow, and that gets you to where you need to be. So, like COVID comes and hits you, and it's funny really because the amount of people's businesses that have folded, you can actually fold your business kind of with your head held high during COVID, because it's not realistically your fault that your business is struggling or finished. Whereas normally that would be one of the worst feelings, and it's still going to be a worse feeling for them people, but it would psychologically, you'd feel a failure. Whereas it's less a failure just now, because that's the world that's created that. It's not necessarily your bad business decision that's made that happen. But I think COVID has probably been another big learning tool for tunnel vision in business. People won't make changes. I've been quite good at making changes in the business, but certain things, like you go with the flow quite easily, especially when you've got a good business and it's doing well. But so now, I've cut my hours just now because there isn't the people going about. Whereas I'd never have done that before. I might have trimmed them a little. I wouldn't be shut for 2 days a week. But now I'm looking at it and thinking, God, the staff are really happy. We're finished at 8 o'clock instead of 10. We're shut Monday, Tuesday. Everyone's really happy. They know what they're doing. And you think, all right, so there's lessons to be had out of it. Will we go back to 7 days? I doubt it. Might go to 6, but will I go back at 10 o'clock at night? No. Okay, I'm throwing a lot of money away by that, but at the end of the day, it's that staff retention, keeping folk happy, and actually I get a better life out of it too.
And it sounds like there's a lot in that, Calum, just from listening, because obviously it's about resilience as well. It's having that resilience to go on and do the right thing as well, even through a hard lesson in life that you've had through your career, through that shop previously. But I guess with the Navy as well, that's obviously institutionalised you into kind of trying your best, making sure it's perfect, keep on going, striving for the achievement as well. And it sounds like you've tried to get up to your staff as well. And even to the awards as well. I mean, I'd normally list off a couple of the awards. There was that bloody many. It was near enough impossible to list them all off, to be honest. But I seen one that obviously, we talk about the new shop as well. But I'd seen you even just won, is it Catties 2020?
Yeah,
the Catties even, which is a kind of Oscars, if you like, for the kind of, is it the hospitality industry or the seafood industry?
Yeah, so no, it's not seafood, it's for the full hospitality. So that is like, I said when I went out to win Fish and Chip Shop of the Year, that was my kind of ultimate goal. And I tried it in my previous business. And a good friend of mine who'd won it before says, I don't think you want to win it here. You want to win it in somewhere where you can get maximum benefit out of it. Two things you've got wrong is, one, you've got a business partner. You don't want to win it with that because that'll cost you more to get rid of them. And the other one is the business can only turn over so much money. The shop was so little, it couldn't produce enough food, which he was right. So when I went to the Bay, I knew again, I'm going to have to do what I'd done at the Karen with the Bay. I'm going to create it, and I'm going to try and win Fish and Chip Shop of the Year. That's going to be that one of the clauses I had when moving out of the Bay. I wasn't allowed to advertise where I was. So I thought, well, winning competitions isn't an advert. that's a competition, so let's go down. So that was my mindset. And so going out and winning that, again, that was another lesson. We didn't win it the first year. I got to the final 10 in the UK, and we were in the room doing a presentation, and that all went really well. And then we were in a room of 500 people as they announced it, and they said third place is Douche. And I thought, okay, that's good. We want them, and they're going to be there. Second place is Douche, and I thought, oh shit, this ain't good, because the other person that should have been in there, who did win it, had been in the final for so many years. They're not going to just drop out, and not be placed. Yeah, and it was just so happened it was one of my friends that had mystery shopped me before the final, and unannounced. They don't come and tell you, in and out. And he'd come up from down by Brighton. He came up and he mystery shopped me, but he was in the Maldives when they announced the winners, and he phoned me and he says it was me mystery shopped you. I said, was it bad? He said, no, not really. He said, you had no customer service. I wasn't there. And he said that, the two members of staff that were there, one of them was my ex-manager and another member of the team. And he said it wasn't bad. They were just doing work in the shop, but they weren't interacting at all. And he was only customer at the shop because it was a lunchtime. And he said, and I was trying to get them to speak to me. And I'm like, right, okay. And he said, we're talking about making a difference, and this was the difference. And he said, but it's easy fixed. And I was like, right. And I had a staff meeting, and I turned around to the staff and said, this is what's happened. I can't blame you. I can't blame the two people that were on that day, because I haven't actually told you to say hello, goodbye, thank you. Really. If you're going to look back, have I physically said, you've got to say hello, goodbye, thank you? Everyone went, no. Okay, I have now. That's it, done. And we went on and won it, because we all knew that's what we had to pick up and deliver on. I bought everyone iPads to say thank you for getting that far, because it was still a huge achievement. I had to make them realise that what we'd done was still amazing, but we want to go that a little bit further. And that's what we've done. And we went on and smashed it the following year. So it's, again, that thick skin. A lot of folk would just say, bugger this, I'm not doing that again. Or, they'd think that was their final. But you've got to believe, and you've got to get the belief of the staff with you as well. It's important.
Isn't it interesting? You said, like, when you first went into it, you just had this thought about, like, how what would be good to advertise and bring people in was going out for awards. And then obviously now, like, fast forward how many years?
Well, I've been out the Navy. The funny thing is, I've been out the Navy now since 97. Actually, 22nd of October 97 is when I came out the Navy. So that's how long I've been doing it. What's that, 24 years? But what happened was, when I won the Fish and Chip Shop of the Year, and actually, no, it was a year before. It was a year I didn't win. And I knew I was up for an award the following week in London, but I wasn't allowed to announce it when I was getting interviewed for Fish and Chip Shop of the Year, because some of the folk that were on the panel were journalists, and it was embargoed that I was going to these awards. I didn't know I'd won anything. I just knew I was at the awards. But the awards were for the Sustainable Restaurant Association, and I was one of the founder members that started it. And that year, the final was in the Cinnamon Club in Westminster, down in London. So I turned up there. There was only 30 people there. There was Le Manoir, because I was all over the front of the papers, fish and chips against Le Manoir. And I said to Raymond Blanc's general manager, I said, have I really embarrassed you? And they were like, no, total other way around. We're all about sustainability and everything, and what you do is unbelievable. And this is when I started thinking, this is a fair point here. And that morning, actually, the morning I landed in London to go to the awards, Richard Corrigan had presented Fish and Chip Shop of the Year the week before. And when I landed in London and said, where's good for breakfast? He said, come and have breakfast with me. So I went to go to his restaurant. I sat there, and he was having a meeting, and it was with his, he had a company that came in and done all their training for their staff. And he says, "Oh, you can join in. This guy's from Scotland anyway." And I was like, "Okay." And he said to me, "What happened with the awards?" So I told him, and he said, and it was him that said to me, "Did you tell them to say hello, goodbye, thank you?" No. And then I said something else. And he goes, "What do you think your business is less important than this business?" I said, "No." He said, "Well, you need to implement the same kind of mentality." And that's what got me really thinking. And then I went to the awards, and then I was with Giles Corrin, I was with like Raymond Blanc and all these people, and the head chef, the owner of Cinnamon Club, created a dish for Haddock for me, a curry dish and stuff. And I sat there really proud, and I got on the plane to fly home, and I'd won an award, and I was like so chuffed. And I thought, you know what? There's more to gain now for me out with fish and chip industry and go into hospitality or any business sector, right? And that's when the change was for me, because I thought everyone else in fish and chips is chasing to be number one in fish and chips. But what happens when you get there? There's got to be something past that point. So that was my direction. I thought, we've got to look past there. That can't be final. That's not B. We've got to have C, D, E, F. So for me, I started realising, nestling yourself in with your Tom Kitchens, your Raymond Blancs, and all the high rollers like Good Energy and places like people like that. You gain so much information, because all these people, none of them are competition to you. Not like my industry, where everyone thinks they're better than everyone anyway, as everyone does in life. But, you can give advice, but only so many folk are going to take your advice in your own industry. Other folk are thinking they're better anyway. So, but when you're with other industries, everyone's out to help each other. I can message chefs all over the country and say, "What do you think to this?" Bush, they'll give you a supplier, they'll give you an idea. You're no threat to each other, and everyone helps each other. And I really like that. And that is what gave me the ambition to try and get into like the Katie's. So the Katie's for me was my new B. And I tried about 3 or 4 times, and I knew it was going to be difficult, because the hardest, and I've judged the Katie's now, and I judge another award for the caterer, and I know what like it is as soon as it's got a fish and chip tag on it. A lot of these people are from kind of Michelin restaurants, and they're automatically sidelining it just because they need to get past the front cover. They need to read it. And that's why I got asked to judge for the caterers, because I went there and said, like, my sustainability knowledge is high, not for my industry, but it's high for all industries. So I went there and I said, "Hey," I remember we were judging a business, and they were saying, "Oh, this guy's a great chef." I said, "But it's not chef of the year." I believe you've got to be strong and say what you believe. So that's getting in and doing them different things was like better for business, because writing my own articles in fish and chip magazines isn't going to bring customers in my door. That's only an ego thing. It might help some people in your industry, but it's not good for my business. What's good for my business is getting involved with other businesses and doing collabs and stuff. And that's where like Eloise was really good for me, because she was great at trying to get me introduced to people like yourself, and I believe, I've got a great belief that like winning Fish and Chip Shop of the Year, it opened the door for me, but it only cracks it open. You've got to boot it open, and then once you hand the trophy back, that's a good story actually. So it's putting the trophy back. I remember when I woke up the day after I won the award, I was in the hotel in London, and I took a picture of the trophy next to me in bed and said, "I've just woke up to a 21-year-old," because the trophy was 21 years old, right? And then I thought, shit, that's one day gone already. I've worked all these years to get this trophy, and one day's gone. I thought, I'm going to have to make every day count, and that's what I did. But when I was packing it away to take it back to London to give to the new winner, I thought, I'm actually not sad. And if you'd asked me a year ago, I thought I'd be gutted. But I felt I'd achieved so much in that year. But I knew what was coming ahead in the next year already. So I thought, there's a load of excitement coming. So I stuffed my pants into the trophy, and then when I handed it back, and it was who was it now? Oh my God, French
Hopefully,
chef.
hopefully, it's a pair of tartan pants as well.
Well, it would have been, no, they don't wear tartan pants. Are kilt. Who was it? I can't remember the chef's name, but anyway, he said to me before he went on stage, because I got friendly with him, and he says, "Are you upset about putting it back?" I said, "Nah." I says, "I wiped the trophy on my ass, so whoever kisses it's kissing my ass." so he got up on the stage, and he got the trophy, and he went, "I smell you, Calum." But that's it. You've got to kick a door open, and you've got to. That's where, like, having a PR company. I've had a PR company on the go now for many years, before I won Chip Shop of the Year. And the reason I took a PR company originally was because I was in the final. I know what I wanted to say, but I needed it. I needed direction. I needed to have the A to B. I didn't want to be all over the place talking about things. So I said, structure me. You can't write it for me because I won't be able to read it. I'll just put a few bullet points and then I'll just follow the bullet point. Perfect. And then I thought, I'm not getting rid of you guys. I liked it. You know, it was good for me, good for business. And it meant when folk phoned about something, I would just throw them to them. And it was more professional. And I really liked it. And I've stayed with it. Whereas a lot of folk see that as a cost.
Yeah,
I think
it sounds like that's pushed you forward as well. It's like it's a case of you said you've had to kick the door open, but it's not the end game. Like fish and chip, like that is one of the one before the next step you're about to take. But the PR company are kind of constantly like, right, where are you? And sometimes you need some of that external good people around you, that influence to kind of say, no, look, there's another goal here, there's another challenge.
Well, yeah, and also you might see something and think it looks okay, and then you'd say, hey, because a lot of the PR companies I've used, they would say I've probably been quite easy to run with because, again, that organic. A lot of things come from things every time. So I turn up to an event, something comes from that event. If I go with my fish and chip band, something comes from that every time. But they're not all good things. But that's where a different set of eyes with a different outlook in life is pretty good. So like I said to Eloise, hey, I've been offered to do something with this person. What do you think? Not good timing. I would leave that just now. They're not hot on the press. And that's what's good. And they've always got their eyes open for you. And I just think it's just
but again, Calum, it comes back to it comes back to that expertise that you're paying for. When you talked about your solicitor earlier on, your solicitor could have said, yeah, on you go, just sell out whatever's easier. But your solicitor took the hard decision to say, no, just play the long game, play it hard. And that's what you pay for, that expert. And that's that collaboration piece which is coming through.
Yeah, well, the funny thing was, before I took PR, I was advertising in newspapers all the time. I was on radio stations. I had TV adverts. I was paying all these things. Was there a return on them? Nah, probably not. It's hard to judge it. It's hard to work that out whether you get anything from any of them. It's certainly not to the amount that you spend. But when I first went with the PR company, I stopped all advertising, really, apart from like the local sports or something like that, helping the teams. I decided I'll put all my money into this instead. And there was more gain by it. There was far more gain every time. And that's the way I see it. It's a cost. It's not a cost, really.
It's an investment.
Definitely, for sure.
So Calum, listen, one of the things you were talking about there and about the step kind of beyond and looking at hospitality, and you mentioned sustainability, you're on panels and whatnot. Something we were chatting about before as well. Like, I guess that growth and focus on sustainability, you mentioned it a bit earlier on in terms of packaging, but I guess how has that evolved, I guess, over time? Where do you stand now in terms of, like, from a sustainability point of view? There's lots of chat, in the media around, Seaspiracy's in there about sustainable fishing. We've got COP26, which I'm going to be supporting that in the next couple of weeks down in Glasgow. around, it'll be food waste and plastics and carbon emissions and all this stuff. Sustainability is like a phrase which is worldwide and kind of a real big focus for everyone right now. What's your kind of what's in your world just now? What impact are you having in terms of sustainability, and what do you see about some of the stuff, particularly around fishing and the fishing industry, I guess, in general, around sustainability?
I think sustainability, everyone's perception of it's different. I think no one's got an excuse not to be sustainable now in any form of life. Kids are taught it at school now. So the staff that come to me now already know about it. I don't have to educate them anymore. They actually come with some great ideas as well. So that's where you've got to have this open door approach to let staff come up and give you ideas. And, I always say if you come with an idea and we roll with it, you'll get a reward for it. So a ticket to a concert or something, because, some people come with some bizarre things and you think, actually that might work. But for us, Craigie, we're a bit OTT probably, it's that organic growth. So when we went to the Bay, I knew that I wanted to be, it was my own business. There was no one going to influence me. This was, the beauty now is any mistakes are my mistakes. So it doesn't matter. I don't have to justify anything to anyone. So if I decide to buy a more expensive cleaning product, well, that's up to me. It's only out of my pocket. And that is kind of where I went. And at the time, I'm right on the waterfront, and I thought everything that goes in that drain is affecting the fish. So we need to look at what's going down the drain. That's probably where it started. So I looked for environmental cleaning products, and at the time I started with Ecover Professional range. Was pretty good, to be honest, although the dishwashing stuff wasn't strong enough because it used to leave a little bit of lime, and we don't even have lime in the area. It just didn't have enough harshness to fight through some of the stuff. But it evolved. So then I got introduced to Enyo Cleaning Fibres, which is just water, and then Delphis Eco. So I still use Enyo and Delphis because I need to have a sanitizer legally by law. And actually, I'm all over their bottles in the supermarkets now. It's got Calum Richardson Chef, and it advertises in Waitrose and all these different places on the Delphis bottles. So cleaning products was kind of a big one. I don't like spraying chemicals around the shop because there's food everywhere for a start. Then I started thinking, what happened after that? Frying equipment range and everything that sends all high energy efficient. But I started looking deeper than that. And the SRA, when I started with them, they said to me, how much food waste do you have? So I don't have any food waste, I'm a takeaway. And they said, you must have food waste. I says, I don't, I'm a takeaway. I've got batter scraps and tatty peelings. Okay, you need to start weighing it and measuring it. I'm like, what? So I started. Holy shit, I had more than you think. I really had more than you think. And it's like, I need to start looking at ways to offset this, because food waste bins were so expensive. So being sustainable, you can save a fortune, but some things are expensive. So it balances out. Food waste bins are expensive, and all the food waste goes away to be compost. But what it does is it teaches you not to just fill it. Think about what you're putting in it. Why is it going in there? Is there ways that we can stop that? So like we don't even prepare the potatoes on site anymore. I have a company that does it for me. I'll say this is the potatoes I want used. And he uses recycled water to do it. And he uses all the sludge and starch for pig feed. Everything's been utilised. So he's utilising everything for me. I get a raw ingredient. So all of a sudden, I've got 2 food waste bins no longer. So that's saved me money, and I'm not putting it to landfill.
So cool, those things where you've got in the supply chain, all you've done is ask a question, and then you've found a supplier that actually benefits them. Like they've got a business which they use all that stuff. Like You don't need to try and find a use for it. You're just like, I just want that bit of the product.
So I said to my supplier as well, just the other week, I said to him with his vegetables, I said, look, I cut all our own onion rings. And I said, and I've got the middle bit, but there's only so much coleslaw on that I can make. I says, why do you not cut onion rings? What do you mean? I said, you could sell them to hotels and everything. I says, but you're going to utilise the middle bit for your soup mixes, or, all of a sudden his mind's going, there's, but it works for everyone,
I love that. It's just such a cool way of thinking. It's like that type of thing. If you mentioned earlier around like thinking broader than fish and chips, right? You don't want to just be thinking like in that industry. And I wonder whether having that broader view and going and meeting Michelin star chefs and whatnot is kind of broadened that, so that you are now thinking on a much bigger picture, rather than and allowing to be able to see, right, actually all the touch points across the supply chain, where could this be done better, rather than just looking at the four walls of your business and saying, how can we do it better? You're actually considering everything. I was in
the Vibes Awards, so it's Vision in Business and Environment in Scotland, and I got through to the final for SME in business management, and 3 judges were coming to judge me, and only 2 turned up. One was coming from Orkney or something, and the ferry couldn't make it, so the 2 judges came. And this lady came in. It was quite funny. That was just that typical mentality of fish and chip. No, it's just a fish and chip shop. And she came in, and I showed her around, and I said, "This is my Enyo cloth." "Oh, I know Enyo," she said. "And this is Delphis Eco stuff, and this is this elastic band on this sink, so we don't overfill it, and so we're reducing water." And she was like, "Holy shit!" And I said, "And these are letters I give to all my suppliers that say this is what I want. This is how I want it delivered. If you're going to change it, you have to give us. You don't just make the decisions, because we have a couple of suppliers will supply through. One will deliver one day and one will deliver the next, but they'll take each other's stuff rather than them both turning up every day, because they're coming from the same area. So that's kind of what I tried to implement. This woman was like, "What?" So we went next door to the cafe to do the interview and have coffee. And she goes, "I'm going to be honest with you. I've been blown away. I came here thinking just another fish and chip shop." I says, I could tell. I says, I knew right away. Your body language, you'd already written me off before you walked in the door. And she kind of admitted it. So we went on and won that. And then you get put forward that you can go up against everyone in Europe for it. So I went up and I won the whole of the UK thing. I beat London Underground, Nestle's UK, all these companies, and I was in the European Commissioner. I was at the finals in Lyon, and Vegware were there as well. They were in a different category, and the Commissioner stood up. I didn't win. I didn't expect to win. My win was getting there. I already got past where I was. My aim. When I get to these things, it's not necessarily about winning them. It's about getting nestled in there, showing people you can get into that arena. And the Commissioner said on the podium, "I can't believe there's a fish and chip shop here or a cafe that does what he does. There's no reason no other business in this European Union cannot do these things." And it's fact, or some of these things. There's no excuse. If I can do it, anyone can do it. It's simple. And that's what makes you come away and think, bingo, that's what I needed to achieve.
And that's what I like, Calum, as well. I'm amazed that lady didn't do a bit of research before she came into the shop as well, because what I've noticed with the website as well, the pride and joy you share about all your suppliers, about what they bring to it, the traceability aspect is phenomenal. So I've got another client as well who's trying to do that in his own business. When I looked at your business, I was amazed that you can just be right up front. You talked about the potato farmer as well. There was so much in there. You talk about your batter mixes, your own batter mix. You talk about the oil you use as well. There's so much in there that just, I think if you've done a bit of research before she went in it, you should be amazed. And first off, and she'd never judge a book by its cover. That's a kind of classic one. So what's next for before we move on, actually, we're going to talk about Seaspiracy briefly, because Darren and I both watched this programme. We spoke to Eloise about this. We spoke about it off camera briefly as well. And both Darren and I are vegetarian, eat fish as well, but that put us off fish for a while. I'm coming back around to my kids eat it all the time.
I just had a fish supper last night, and I was just thinking it was the perfect preparation, but it wasn't up in Stonehaven though, Calum.
Where was it?
It was Ayr, somewhere down in Ayr. I was on the way back home from the in-laws, so don't know where Dino's.
All right.
But what's your views on this, Calum? Because obviously, from us, it was a very one-sided documentary we watched, but again, it done some damage to us from a point of actually wanting to go out and buy stuff, and a bit of trust element as well. It's taking that bit of time to come back. What's your views on these kind of documentaries that are aired?
Well, I seen it all over social media initially, and I thought, I'm not watching that nonsense. You know, I seen some people getting on their high horse about it, and I thought, just be the same as usual, it'll pass. But a week later, and it was gaining some traction. I thought, I think I'm going to have to watch this. So I sat down with my wife and put it on, and I tell you, my jaw dropped. I'll be honest, I was pretty taken back. There was things in there that let's be honest, there is things that have to change. It's not all perfect, by a long way. I work out in Japan a lot, and one of the things I do is I promote MSC out there for MSC. I had to help them get it right for the Olympics. So
what's MSC? Sorry,
Marine Stewardship Council. So that's your blue tick that you see on the
labels,
on the labels and stuff. Yeah. So, I know there's always this negativity kind of mentality about anything that's got a tag on it. Folk love or hate it, especially in this day and age, with social media. But I thought I'll watch it, and I tell you, it was a bit of an eye opener. I was pretty gobsmacked when we finished watching it. Actually, if we'd finished watching it halfway, I think I'd have probably been more upset than I watched it all the way. Because if you go right to the end, I think you realise it's a very one-sided story. It doesn't let two sides come through, and it's got an agenda. It's not like a story. It has got an agenda. It's out to portray the whole industry the same. Whereas if you'd switched it off halfway through, which I rarely did, I would have been more upset. But the first thing I'd done, my wife said to me, God, I think I'm going to stop eating fish. I said, you can't do that. That's what this is trying to do, But I phoned Jimmy Buckingham from Amity, where I buy my scampi, and he's like the head of the Whitefish Association and stuff. I thought I better phone him and see what he's saying about it, because we got on great, and it's good to see what they're doing as well. So I phoned him, and he said the same as me. I've not watched it yet. I said, I think you better watch it. I said, because you're going to get asked this question in one of your interviews. Fact. He said, is it bad? I said, uh-huh. I says,
Scotland's in it as well. I mean, they're all over the world, but I mean, it's the salmon, isn't it? I think, but
salmon West Coast, yeah. But I think all they done was just like done a picture of the blacks like poop, like all around it, and how dirty it was, and that's all they tried to portray was all the water was minging and infested. And I thought, not having that. So I spoke to Jimmy, and he said, right, I'm going to get on to it. And then I was asked right at this time by MSC if I would be one of their ambassadors for Scotland. And I was like, this is one of them ones, do I need to take this on just now? So I said, I will do it, but it depends. You're going to have to answer me some questions. So I asked the questions, and actually they ended up having a live Q&A with Fish Fryers Federation, and some of the members came on. And it was quite good, actually, because they said, I've been friends with these guys a long, long time, and they said to me that they were told that they were going to get an interview, but they'd been pre-warned by some of the other companies that had already been interviewed that it's got an agenda. It doesn't matter what you're going to say, you're going to get edited out. You actually aren't even going to be able to answer anything you want to answer. They're just going to direct questions in a specific way. So they decided not to bite to the bullet straight away. And then they asked to add their own views at the end, and it was turned down and ignored. And I think they tried to do something else, and it was just ignored. It was a total agenda. And then they said the same company has come up. I think there was something about cows before, and they'd done something to do with it. Yeah. And then you start thinking, right. And I said, well, you guys, it's up to you guys to make this right. You know, it's all very well all us shops standing there saying, no, it's okay. But you guys as a leading organisation need to stand there and say, this is our side of the story. So that's what they said they were a way to do. And they have pushed it. It did have a lot of traction though, for sure.
What do you think the agenda was? What do you think the agenda was?
No, it was a vegan. It was vegan agenda. They were trying to get people to stop eating fish totally.
Especially since it came from the Seaspiracy one, so it's a kind of advertising piece, classic advertising. You kind of want to show one side of an argument so that people will believe it. But
that's it. It was a total classic piece. Like I say though, you know, until you stop.
It reminded me. Have you ever seen Michael Moore stuff, kind of Fahrenheit 9/11 and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah.
It's very much similar to that, to a point where it's all giving you one side of the argument, but there's an arrogance to it as well. But at the same side, there's underlying truth of some of the stuff as well, which needs to be flagged.
That's exactly right.
Trolling some of the, like, I guess to someone who's not in the industry, some of the stuff that was like at the end, like I think I was almost in tears at the end, like with the whales kind of being, and it's like normal practice. I think it was was it Iceland or Faroes or something.
I think so.
Like
yeah,
but then it, like some of the trolling and the damage to that, like it feels like, you know, a phrase comes to mind. It's like there ain't, you know, no smoke without fire. There's definitely there's a lot that's, you could say, it's been cut and edited and not been included in it.
Yeah, I think
actually
all
the stuff that was in it kind of still feels like some of it's felt pretty bad.
It's a bit like one of the scenes that they done, and it was about Filipinos or something on boats, and they were getting mistreated, not paid, and then not towing the line. They were just getting flung over the side, and that was them gone. But they tried to that, so that's probably true. There's no getting away from it, but they didn't say where. Just generalising that all fishing vessels have this mentality, and it's. And I tell you, another one that came about years ago was Hugh Fernley when he done his fish fight. Same kind of idea, and I ended up getting involved in this. So he portrayed on his first series. He done a shot, and it had Scotland, and then it went out to somewhere like India or something, and they were blowing fish out the water with dynamite or something, right? But it was all in the same take, and it was like, that doesn't seem right, you know, the way you've portrayed that. So I caused a stink, and he came to meet me in my hotel in London because I was down there cooking for the Guardian Awards, and he came to meet me and he said, "Would you be interested?" And no, he asked me what the problems were with it. I said, "I think what you're saying, most of what you're saying is right, you know, about bycatch and all these things." I said, "But you've not put a level story out. You've not said what the good things that these boats are doing." I said, the Scottish fleet do a thing called fish for litter, and they've been doing it for like 20 years. Anything they pick up in their nets, they've got to take and land. So if it's a car tyre, a washing machine, packet of crisps, they land it so they don't pull it up the next time.
I didn't know that. There must be so much stuff they take back to land. Wow.
Oh yeah, because what's happening is if they throw back an old washing machine, they probably rip their nets the next time. You know, and that is, or it's in the net and it damages the fish. So it bruises them, it kills them and all this stuff. So I went down this route with them and said, you know, these guys have been trying to get MSC certified. So they're trying to make, I said, there's not enough boats anymore for a start. They'll be disappeared before the fish will. I said, they'll hold their hands up and say 20 years ago, they were fishing everything out to sea, making lots of money. But that days have changed. It has totally changed. And I said, but you've got to portray it right. So then they came back to me and said, would you be willing to do something with us? So I said, okay, but they gave me a week. And I said, well, I'm actually in London that week. I said, so if it's that 2 days, no. And then they phoned me and said, we're outside your shop and we're away to start filming. I said, are you now? And I said, right. what are you wanting to do? So they said, we want to come in and interview you, but you're not there, so we'll interview your manager. I said, right, I'll go and speak to my manager. And I said to him, your choice, because it's your face. I said, but you remember, these guys are known for portraying what they want to portray. And he turned around and said no. Because if it ends up coming out bad, he'll feel bad for the whole industry that, you know, he's let him down. I said, fine. I picked the phone up and said no. You know, so I have gone out my way to ruffle feathers with people like this that are one-sided, but they're clever because there is a lot of truth in what they're saying. You know, it's not lies, but they just
it's exaggerating. It feels like,
yeah, pretty much. Yeah,
there's something about like that being popular nowadays. Like holding like a balanced, reasoned argument isn't like, no one wants to hear that, do they? They have to. It has to be like an extreme view at one end.
Yeah,
or
you can
no
tell.
one's interested. It's like
you can tell that with social media. You know, look at COVID. You got your lovers and haters, and it's absolute manic. It was the same way like Brexit vote and independence vote. It's the same. It's a love or hate. Folk are transfixed on one or the other. They cannot put both into one phrase. You know, folk don't have a balanced argument anymore. It is absolutely one-sided all the time.
I think that's a danger. You can lose friends. I've nearly lost a couple of friends from the discussions about COVID as well. We've just agreed not to talk about it because it's become so political and hateful. And right, there's not an even discussion. You even watch stuff on. Used to watch Question Time years ago, and I even stopped watching that as well because there's no balanced argument at all. It's just swayed how you want to see it. But moving away from all that negativity, but positivity as well, because I bring it to the forefront. What's your vision then for your own business in the future? Because obviously you've rattled off so many awards there. You've talked about having a kind of infinite mindset where it's not about becoming number one. You want to grow and become more. What are the big plans for you?
I don't want more shops. I know too many folk that if you'd asked me 20 years ago or 10 years ago, not 10, 15 maybe, I would have probably said, yeah, I would have a few shops. But I think once you have one and it's a workhorse, you don't need loads of shops. I think I'd weaken what I've got by trying to have too many. And I see so many folk like that in the industry. So for me, I have, like you said earlier on, I've got the Bay Batter, I've got the Bay Fish Cakes, and I have contracts with Food Buy and Compass. So I supply schools, hospitals, the armed forces. So I supply the warships and stuff, which is quite a buzz for me. Which is good because it affects the business, but it doesn't affect the business. I've always said the core of my business has got to be the Bay. Anything else is just like strands, but it can't affect the Bay. The Bay's got to be there solid. So COVID's been a prime example of that. So all that Compass things all of a sudden stopped because obviously everything's shut. You know, football stadiums are closed, things like that. I've got the Bay on the Road van, which I do weddings and events and stuff.
Did I see that? Did I see you were casting? Was it the Outlander cast as well?
I've done them 3 times now.
Yeah.
So done the end of season party a couple of years ago, and then they asked me back for this season at one of the sets, and then Sam asked if I would come back again, and I said okay, and then they asked me to come on the last one, so it was up in Glencoe on set. They're all acting, I'm standing there cooking fish and chips. It was quite surreal. It's good.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So that the van's good again, but it doesn't affect me if it stops. I pick and choose what I want to do with that. I'd try not to let it. I could have that out continually, but again, I had a manager for that, and then he decided he wanted to leave the company, and I thought, oh God, lucky I didn't grow that too big because I could have been left in trouble, like, you know. So I have been cautious with that, and I've kept it as a good side runner. I do consultancy all over the world as well, so help folk open businesses or give advice.
I've seen Japan seems to be a big one as well.
10 times I've been out there now.
Yeah.
So I believe in carrying on the same way as we are now. I don't have anything that I transfixed on that I'm aiming for. I think that's a bit difficult at the minute because you can't see what you're going to do at the end of this year. You know, last year you said you'd be all right in 3 months, and look where we're at now. So I think outlook's changed a bit. You know, it's a bit more chilled, a bit more relaxed pace. I think we've got to just kind of go with an open mind at the minute. I think if we go with anything else, you could be in for disappointment. I think you've got to be in the mindset of not be afraid to change anything at the minute. Now's the time to experiment because you'll get away with it. You won't get away with it. In normal day, you wouldn't get away with it. People just wouldn't put up with it. And then I've got coming up next month, you were talking about COP26. I'm at COP26 as a supplier. And there's the bay fish and chips at two ends of the hall. So I've got to go and orchestrate that as well because we're going to do 1,000 fish and chips at each unit each day.
Wow.
For all the leaders. So
wow. That's a big kudos.
I might see you there if I don't think I'll be getting any of that for my lunch. That will not be coming my way.
But
I'm a hired help for it. They're getting that close to it. I think there must be a bit of recruitment challenge. But yeah.
How does that make you feel? You mentioned this earlier on. You're feeding the warships as well. That must give you some bit of kind of internal happiness. Do you still know people out there in the Navy and stuff like that are eating your food?
Yeah. And I know as the guy I was with, he was an engineer and then he changed to a ship's diver, and then he's now a commander in the Navy. So I was down in Portsmouth 4 years ago. I was asked to go to HMS Sultan, where I train as an engineer, and I had to do a demo to all the chefs and a speech to all the admirals and everyone of all these ships to say about my product and about my belief. And I stood in there and it was like in the old dance floor, the bop. And I said, God, the last time I was standing here, I was trying to get my tongue down a wren. they were all laughing. And the guy in the main gate, he says to me, you've got to go across to the galley. Do you want me to get someone to show you? I said, it's all right, mate, I've got this. You know, it was like you don't care.
It's not my first rodeo.
It was so unreal, thinking, holy shit, I'm supplying, you know, one of my biggest goals in life and achievements in life, and I'm now supplying them. And it is. And I got asked earlier on in the year, the Royal Navy, Royal Marines charity, they asked me if I would write 3 recipes for that, a recipe, starter, main, dessert for the new book. So I got the draft of it last week, and it's on pre-order now on Amazon and stuff.
What's that book called, sorry?
It's called Galley.
Perfect. We'll put it in the show notes as well.
Yeah, it's called Galley. So all the £25, all the money's going to the Royal Navy, Royal Marines charity. Nothing is getting taken from it. So it's got a picture of me, my first picture in the Navy, the official photo, a little spot on my chin, you know, a bit of bum fluff on the face.
What age were you in, 16, did you say, or 15, 16?
16, just a week after my 16th birthday.
Wow.
So it was, so that's in there. And I've got like Gavroche is on it before me, Michel Roux Jr. He's on the page before me. And then there's 20 chefs. So it's you know, it's quite a buzz, you know, to feel like I'm putting something back to it as well, you know, because that's what it's about really at the end of the day. It's like I said to you earlier on about, you know, a friend of mine's got cancer, and, you know, the way everyone in the forces pull together for each other, there's nothing like that in Civilian Street. I don't think. I've not seen it, you know, it's the camaraderie and the way each other is, it's unbelievable. When I went down to HMS Sultan though, to do the talk and the demo, I messaged my mate who's a commander. At the time he was a lieutenant commander, and I said, come out for a beer. So come out for a beer, and took us back to his house. And there was another guy who was still in the Navy that I was with as well. We went back to his house. We went to the toilet, and I've got his wife's jacket on. She was a 2.5 ringer as well, and her hat. He's got we're taking pictures. He come out, he's going mental. He's like, can't do that anymore. I'm an officer. yeah, whatever. Yeah. We'll see how that goes. I'm taking photos of everything in his house. So I didn't have mobile phones when I was in the Navy. This is amazing. I'll have this against you the rest of your life.
Fantastic. I love your humour's coming out as well. That's fantastic. And it's probably good that you said obviously when you started out you probably didn't have that as much in the chip shop and stuff like that, but now it's probably coming out more because you're more relaxed and everyone's kind of, with COVID and everything else, everyone's starting to understand that life's life and work's work, and you can have a good balance of both, which is fantastic.
Exactly. think mental health's been a big thing. Everyone's got to kind of. It used to be something that people would be scared to talk about. Now, you know, everyone's happy to talk about it, and that's a positive that's come out of COVID. Not that folk have got mental health issues, but people are not so scared to speak about it, or they're not scared to talk to people that have got it, you know, because a lot of folk can be afraid going the other way.
Yeah, it's a bit more normalised now.
Yeah.
So, Calum, on you go, Dan, sorry.
Well, I was just going to say the exact same. I mean, I think we could, like, it's amazing how quickly the time's gone, but like, if anyone's kind of reaching out to you, obviously the Bay Fish and Chips, you'll probably find you just by typing that in. That'll probably come up. But how else can people find you, reach you, social media, that type of stuff?
Social media, it's all at the Bay Fish. LinkedIn, Calum Richardson or at the Bay Fish. Or quite often you'll see me outside council buildings on the marriage wall with notifications to it.
I hope your missus isn't listening to this one. That'll be a bad one as well. So yeah, but yeah, well, like I say, I'm on number 1, Dan is number 2, and you're number 3. So there we go. But that's been fantastic having you on, Calum, and really looking forward to seeing what you do next. It sounds like you've got great aspirations, and I love the fact around the gala book as well. Put that in the show notes and we'll order a copy as well.
I was just having a quick look through it. It mustn't be the right issue, but I was just having a quick look through it now. But it mustn't be the right one that's up. So I'll have a wee look at it.
The cover's a white cover. It says galley, and then it's got loads of different kind of chefs. So you've got chefs in kilts, you've got chefs in wheelchairs. So it's kind of got diversity in it.
Fantastic. No, fantastic, Calum. We'll have a great rest of the week, and we'll look out for you soon.
Okay, cheers, guys.
Thanks, Calum.
Bye now.
As always, thank you so much for listening to the Pot Pod this week. If you'd like to leave a review or share the podcast with others, then that'd be awesome. You'll find us on Instagram at the Pot Pod, and on Facebook we have a community group called Purpose to Progress that anyone can join. And we'll be back every Monday with a new episode, but until then, stay on purpose, and we'll see you next week.